Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Homeownership Workshop at Hanley Meadowbrook Community Center. We appreciate you all for coming today. I think you'll learn a lot of great information. Today, this presentation will be presented by the City of Fort Worth and the Tarrant Appraisal District. My name is Shauna Shepard, and I will represent the City of Fort Worth Neighborhood Services Department today. So what is our mission for our department? Our mission is building strong neighborhoods by empowering residents with housing, community development, and social services. And I'll go over that throughout the presentation today. So I wanted to provide you all just a snapshot of some of the services that we provide in our department. I'm gonna be a little biased today and go off a little bit track and talk to you about two programs that we have in our department that's not home ownership related per se, but I think will be a great benefit to not only you, our community, neighbors, and even some of your church members. Right now it's tax season, and we have a program called the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program that provides free tax preparation, and I'll go a little bit further on the next slide. But I want to also talk to you about a program called Rising Stars, with ages 12 to 18 years old. And we teach them professional development skills, we teach them about life skills, we even take them on college tours. So this weekend, we'll be taking them to the Black White Coats Youth Summit, where they'll be able to see Black professionals that wear white coats in the healthcare industry. And then on that Monday, we'll be taking them to the University of North Texas for a college tour. Again, I'm a little biased because I'm an alum there from UNT, but it's just good to be able to provide those resources. Next is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program that I was telling you about. It's a free tax preparation program. It provides basic federal income tax returns prepared and e-filed by IRS certified volunteers. I want to invite you out on February 27th at the City of Forest Hills Convention Center, where they are prepared to help you file your taxes. We know sometimes taxes can cost you $100 to $300 to file. If you make up to $60,000 but below $60,000, you will be possibly to be eligible for this program. So I would encourage you to look into that program. We do have flyers to the left of me if you would like to pick up that information. And then also, if you want to call 211 or visit our website, you'll be able to learn the nearest VITA center near you. Next is our Community Action Partners program that's also within the City of Fort Worth Neighborhood Services Department. Our goal is to assist residents in living an independent, self-sufficient life by providing an opportunity for professional skills training, education, and supportive services. We do tend to focus on those that are elderly, disabled, and households with children 5 and under. This is another program that does provide utility assistance, but I want to kind of go a little bit to the left here also. This program also provides short-term certification, whether it be HVAC, equipment operator, or cosmetology. This is also a great program for professional skills development as well. Next is utility assistance. We have a program called the Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program. It is broken down to about a few categories here. The first one is the Utility Assistance Program that will assist up to 6 utility payments per year. The next one is our Household Crisis Program. It assists with disconnection or a bill during the weather crisis not already covered through the Utility Assistance Program. So we know just in the last week or so, we just went through Ice-Mageddon, and Texas is all over the place, right? This is a program where you may be eligible for. Each program has its own eligibility requirements, but this is something to look into for your utility system. The next one is the Household Crisis Repair Program, where repair HVAC systems for priority groups at any time in general population during weather crisis.
Could you repeat that?
Which one? The Household Crisis Program. It is a repair program, and it also receives with the HVAC system, repair with HVAC systems. Okay.
What is it repair?
What is specifically repair? Sorry.
Yes. The HVAC, the air conditioner, heater, depends on if you have central air, you replace the unit, or fix parts of the unit that may be broken. If you have window units, depending on the size of your house, we can provide you with window units. All of these programs are income determination.
And I'll go through a few other programs today, and then after the presentation, we'll continue to answer questions as they come along for sure. The next one is our low-income household water assistance program. This is a new program that assists low-income households, particularly those with low incomes, pay a high proportion of income for drinking water and wastewater services. Again, this is another program that I would like to invite you out on March 9th at the Family Action Center from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. to assist with utility bills and your water bill. Please take advantage of this particular program, whether it's for you or a neighbor. But as I'm talking about water, I also want to provide a few resources that our water department provides. They provide a Smart Flush program. And through this program, they're able to provide possibly a free toilet, repair your toilet, because we know sometimes there's leaks in the toilet, which will impact your water bill and increase the water bill. In addition to that, they have water conservation programs where they'll teach you about water days. Sometimes we feel like we need to water our grass 2-3 times a week, and sometimes during the season, you may only need to do that once a week. And they also have a program that will check your irrigation system too. So take advantage of some of those programs through the water department.
Sean, you mentioned that the March 9th is for all. The March 9th that you have.
The March 9th one is when? Yeah, it's for all utilities for March 9th, whether it be utilities, water bill, open. So we look forward to seeing you there on March 9th. So how can you access some of our community action services? You can apply online, you can call us. So there's various ways that you can access those services. And so if you want to take a screenshot, or we will send this presentation later so you can have this as a resource. So next, I'll speak briefly about our housing program services. I have a colleague here today that if you have specific questions regarding any of these programs, she will be able to assist you after the presentation today. Want to talk to you about the priority repair program, lead safe program, weatherization program, and our home buyer assistance program. Keep in mind, each program has its own eligibility requirements. The first one is our priority repair program. This program assists with electrical system failures, roof repairs, air conditioning, and plumbing issues. Part of this program, you must be in the city of Fort Worth, be able to complete a home inspection, and provide verification of household income. The next program is our lead safe program. Lead, mostly lead used in homes before 1978. Serious health risks, especially to children. So lead can really impact our elderly community as well as our children. We do look for households that have children under the age of 6 years old. And again, this one you must live in the city of Fort Worth as well. And there's other eligibility requirements within this particular program also. Because sometimes lead can be in the walls, you can't see it, but we can always do an inspection of the home to see if you will qualify for that particular program. Our next one is the Weatherization Assistance Program. This program reduces energy costs for low-income families, particularly those that are elderly, people with disabilities, and children. Just some examples to improve efficiency is the heat and AC units as well as the refrigerators. But an example of some of the qualified repairs is floor installation, caulking, attic ventilation, duct sealing. And we know those are very important because just a couple weeks ago, 20, 30 degrees, and if your house is on 70, but there's a little crack in the window or a little ceiling, it kind of counteracts. So if you're be able to, do the little caulking and the ceiling there, then that'll help with your efficiency in your home. So that's another program to definitely take advantage of as well. The next program is the Home Buyer Assistance Program. This program provides mortgage assistance for first-time home buyers, but you cannot have owned a home in the last 3 years. So if you owned a home in 2001, but you've been renting since then, you may be eligible for this particular program. So they provide up to $20,000 for homes for those that live in the city of Fort Worth. Now, I have to do a caveat because I know I've had this question before. If you own multiple properties, it's only for the home that you reside in, okay? So it's only for the home that you actually reside in. But you're able to get the full $20,000 for mortgage assistance or use up to 3%. Now, for this particular program, the vendor must be a qualified vendor in order to be eligible for the Home Buyer Assistance Program. But our team will be more than glad to go over that vendor list with you, go over the qualifications for you to see if you will be eligible for this program. So how can you apply for some of our housing program services? Here's some of the contact information, whether it be via phone or the direct application link that you can apply for this particular program. So I know a few of y'all taking a few screenshots here. So again, these are just a few of our programs with our department. We provide a lot of programs and events, but just wanted to give you an overview of what some of the City of Fort Worth and neighborhood services. Next up is the Tarrant Appraisal District. I'm glad to introduce Jeff Hall. He is the chief appraiser, so you have a man in town from the Tarrant Appraisal District that will go over a homestead exemption and the appraisal process. And feel free to ask your questions. Come on.
Thank you very much, Shauna. I want to say welcome to everybody tonight. Got a nice hot crowd. The last one we went to, we had 7 people there. So I'm glad to see a lot of people show up. Because I think the information that both the City of Fort Worth is sharing and what I'm going to share can be very beneficial to you and can save you some money. And that's what we all want to do, right? Is save some money. We're not having to spend as much of our money. But again, I'm from the Appraisal District. My name is Jeff Law. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what the Appraisal District does. Back in 1980, appraisal districts were created by the state legislature. Everything that we do is mandated by state law. Okay, the laws are created and we follow those laws in order to do what we do. We are considered a political subdivision of the state, and we have the property tax code that is the law that we follow. Now, what are some of our responsibilities? The first responsibility we have is to do the appraisal work for the different taxing entities. I have a staff of 200 that work for me. About 80 of those people are appraisers, and they go out every year and they perform appraisals all throughout the county of both residential, commercial, business, personal property, and mineral. They put values on your homes that are used later on to determine how much property tax you'll end up paying. Another thing that we do is we administer tax exemptions. Exemptions are basically a way that you can pay less tax, less property tax. Okay, and I'm going to spend a lot of time tonight speaking about exemptions that apply to residential properties that you may or may not take advantage of, but we'll talk about those, and I'll answer questions that you have. The other thing we do is certification of the appraisal roll. Once we've completed our work, the appraisal process, we certify the appraisal roll and we send to each taxing unit their total amount of value that they'll be able to apply a tax rate to generate how much property tax they may receive. Now in Tarrant County, we have over 72 different taxing units. The county being an example, all the different cities, all the different school districts. Then we have some special districts, the hospital district, the Tarrant County College District, the water district, Tarrant Regional Water District, and then there's some municipal utility districts that are scattered all around the county as well. But all of them will actually levy a tax and collect property taxes from people like like us. We all pay property tax. Let's talk about the residential homestead exemption. These are the different types of homestead exemptions that you may or may not be eligible for. The first one is a homestead. Now, we all may be eligible for homesteads. There's no age restriction on the homestead. The only qualifications is that you have to own the home or have recently purchased the home, and it has to be your principal place of residency. That means that's where you pretty much sleep every night. Now, if you have a rent house or something like that, the rent house won't qualify because it's not your principal place of residence. The place where you stay, that's your principal place of residence. So almost all of you, if you meet those qualifications, you own the home and it's your principal place of residence, you would qualify for a homestead exemption. The second one that I'll spend some time talking about is the 65 and older exemption. Now, as it says, if you're age 65 or older, you may qualify for this exemption. You actually, if you're 65 and older, you would qualify for the homestead and the 65 and older. So you would get 2 exemptions. We also have a disabled persons exemption. Same thing. If you're classified as a disabled person, you may qualify for the homestead and a disabled persons exemption. Now, what qualifies you as a disabled person? We don't make that determination. The Social Security Administration makes that determination. If you're disabled in any way and you want to apply for it, one of the things we're going to ask you for is your letter from the Social Security Administration where you're receiving Social Security disability benefits. That's what qualifies you as being a disabled person. I know we all have aches and pains. I have some aches and pains, and sometimes I feel disabled. I'm not getting any Social Security benefits, so I'm legally classified as not disabled. Another eligible individual would be a disabled veteran. If you served in the armed forces and you have a disability of some sort, and the Veterans Administration has determined you as being disabled, they will assign a percentage of disability. When you apply for a disabled veteran exemption, we're going to ask for that paperwork, that documentation, and it would show how much of a disability you have, and based upon the amount of disability would determine how much of an exemption you get. So if you're a disabled veteran, you could actually be eligible for the homestead, the 65 and older, and the disabled veteran exemption. You could possibly get 3 exemptions on that, and I'll show you some examples here in a minute. And then there's some other disabled veterans exemption, like for example, if you were disabled while on active duty and you're 100% disabled, there's a type of exemption you can get for that. If you're a surviving spouse of a disabled veteran that was eligible, there's some exemptions for that, so on and so on. And if you have any specific questions a little later on, I can try to address those as we go. So let's talk about the exemptions. What good do they have? A homestead, for example, the first thing it will do is it will reduce your total amount of property taxes that you'll be required to pay. That's a good thing. I'll show you an example here in a minute. Another thing it does is it establishes appraisal limitations. Have you ever heard of something called an appraisal cap? Have you ever heard of something that says that the appraisal district can only raise your value 10% per year? If you've heard of that, that's what I'm talking about, an appraisal limitation. Now, there's 3 types of value that we talk about in the appraisal district world. One is market value. That's the price at which your property would sell. If you had a realtor come out here, will sell it to me or sell it to someone else, how much will it sell for? Market value. Appraised value is a value that's used. It can be equal to market value, but it's a value that's a math calculation. State law says that once you buy your home and you qualify for a homestead exemption, we have to keep up with what your market value is and what your appraised value is. Market value can be whatever it's worth, whatever the market says it is, but the appraised value can only go up 10% per year. That's the limitation, okay? Now this, again, I may say that your house is worth $100,000 one year, and I may say it's worth $400,000 the next year. Let's just say, for this sake, that I'm correct. But your appraisal value would be 100, then it'd be 110, then it'd be 121. It can only go up 10% per year. Taxable value, on the other hand, that's the third one, is we take whatever the appraised value is, and we subtract out all eligible exemptions that you may be entitled to, and that's the amount that you will actually pay taxes on. I'll show you an example here in just a second. Over the 65 and older, or the disabled exemption, it produces all these other things up top here, the reduction in total amount, the appraisal limitations, but another advantage is it establishes a tax ceiling. Let's use a school district, for example. Let's say you turn 65 this year. You can be eligible for it, and we treat it as though you were 65 on January the 1st. But let's say the value of your property is something, and we give you the exemptions, and we calculate what your taxes would be for this year. Once we calculate it for that first year you qualify, it creates a ceiling, which means that you'll never pay any more school tax than that ceiling amount. It's possible if we had a recession or value decline that your value could go down and you may pay less, but if the values go back up, you come back up to that ceiling. It sets an amount it won't be higher than. Now, in reality, values keep going up and up and up and up and up. Taxes keep going up and up and up. And it almost looks like your taxes are frozen. Some people refer to them as frozen tax because they don't ever change typically. Now, there's always caveats. There's always exceptions to every rule of the tax code. Will your taxes ever go above the ceiling? Generally, no, unless you go and add to your property. Let's say you go out there and you put in that sunroom on the back of the house that you've always wanted. Let's say you go add a swimming pool that you've always wanted. If you add something to the property, you add another bathroom, you add another living area, you add a swimming pool, a detached garage, that can increase your ceiling, okay? If you don't add anything to the property, it won't change it. If you want to go replace the carpet, you get with Sean and you get some of these nice new features. You get a new air conditioning system, you get some new carpeting, you get a new roof, something like that. That won't change your ceiling. You had a roof and you just replaced and repaired. You didn't add a new roof, right? Or you had flooring and then you just took out the old flooring and you put some newer flooring in. That won't change your ceiling. But if you had a 2-bedroom house, let's say you had a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. You decide to add an extra bathroom. That's adding something that wasn't there before. That'll change your tax ceiling, okay? Now, I want to talk just real quickly about some legislation. We are in a legislative year. The state legislature is in session right now, and there have been some bills that have been filed, and I want to make you aware of a couple of them. One of them has to do with this appraisal limitation. Right now, the law says that if you have a homestead on your house, your appraised value cannot increase by more than 10% per year. There have been some bills, quite a few of them, I will say, that want to lower that to 5%. That would be a good thing. They can only go up 5% per year, your actual appraised value. And that's the one we use to calculate your taxes, not the market value, but the appraised value, okay? There's a good chance, I think, this year that bill will pass, that one of those bills will pass, but there's too many state reps that have filed bills to lower from 10% to something less. This is the first time that I feel kind of positive about it passing. They've introduced them in the past, but they've never passed. This year, I think it's got a chance of passing, but we'll have to wait and see. No, I don't. There's actually multiple. There's many of them that have been filed, but there's actually one that Representative Giovanni Capriglione, state rep in Tarrant County, has filed. I kind of like this bill. I'm not endorsing it or anything like that, but I kind of like it because it changes the homestead cap from 10% to 5%. But what it also does is it'll put a 10% appraisal cap on rental properties. It doesn't appear that it'll affect apartment complexes or other residential properties, but it may if you have a home and you have a rental property, it actually may put a cap on the non-homesteaded residential property. So I kind of like that one. I think it would be good for homeowners to have something like that, property owners to have something like that. So we have a possible decrease in the cap. Oh, I kind of got these mixed up. I mentioned this one. This was been taken from 10 to 5. This increase amount, Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick both came out during their right before the election and said they want to raise the school homestead amount from $40,000 to $70,000. So that instead of getting a $40,000 exemption, you'd get a $70,000. I'll show you exemption on an example on the next slide. Okay, so that would be another thing as far as property tax reduction that the governor's looking at is increasing the amount of the school exemption.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It was possibly going to go from $40,000 to $70,000. Let me show you this next slide right here, and it's an example. This is how we calculate what your taxes would be if you have a homestead or if you don't have a homestead. I've got 3 scenarios up here: Tarrant County, the city of Fort Worth, and Fort Worth ISD. I believe that's the taxing entities that we all live in right here. So, for example, let's say your market value is $250,000. Okay, or you could say your appraised value is $250,000. The exemption, the county right now does not offer a homestead exemption for anyone. Okay, or it's not a homestead exemption, no ma'am. So we would take the $250,000 value, there's no exemption to offer, so your taxable value is going to be $250,000. The tax rate that the county has is a relatively low tax rate, one of the lowest. So you take the 250 and you multiply that times, it represents 22.4 cents for every $100 of value. Okay, that's the way it's stated in our world. 22 cents per $100 of value. You can also think of it as 0.22%, less than 1/4%. So you take this math, 250 times this number divided by 100, and your county tax in this example would be about $560. So let's look at the city. The city, again, the value is the same, $250,000 value, but the city offers a 20% homestead exemption. 20% of $250,000 is $50,000. So we take the 250, subtract the 50, and we wind up with a taxable value of $200,000. See the reduction? So the city tax rate though is 71 cents per $100 of value. You do the math and you come back and you know the city, $1,425, $1,425 on this type of home. But you're getting a $50,000 homestead exemption. The school on the end down there, again, we start off with the same value, $250,000. The school is mandated by state law to give you a $40,000 exemption if you qualify for a homestead. That's the one that they're looking at changing to $70,000. Okay? So 250 minus the 40,000, you get a taxable value of 210,000. But our school taxes are the ones that are the most burdensome. They have $1.28 as far as the taxes. So for every $100 in value you have to pay $1.28 in school taxes. That comes out to $2,691. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. Now this is an example for a homestead. This is an example for a homestead and a 65 and older exemption. So if you're age 65 and older, or if you qualify for the disability example, this example will apply to you. If you're like me and I'm not 65 yet, this is the example that applies to me. Okay? This is the example that applies to 65 and older or disabled. So let's go through the same thing. Same value. $250,000. The county, they don't offer a homestead exemption right now. It's a local option for anyone except schools. Schools are mandated to give a homestead exemption. Everybody else, it's a choice. So for the county, $250,000, no homestead exemption, but the county does offer a $50,000 over 65 exemption. So we do this math: 250 minus 0 minus 50 equals 200,000 in taxable value. You apply their tax rate of 22.4 cents, and you come down here to a net amount of taxes of $448. Now, if you're 65 and older or you're disabled, this would become your tax ceiling. For the county taxes, you would never pay more than $448 in county tax. Now let's look at the city. $250 is the value. They give a 20% local option homestead, plus they give a $40,000 65 and older exemption. So if you had a $250,000 house and you got the city exemptions, your taxable value would only be $160,000. That's what we're going to calculate the tax on. Their tax rate is $71.25, and that comes out to $1,140. I'm going to give you a comparison of all these in a minute, okay? On another slide. The school over there, $250,000 exemption. Fort Worth ISD is mandated by state law to give you a $40,000 exemption, and that could go to $70,000, and it probably won't take effect for a year or so. But they also give a $10,000 local option to 65 and older. Now, these are mandated by state, okay? State law mandates these. So you have $200,000 times $1.28, and your taxes for over 65 and homestead would be $2,563. Now let's look at the next slide. This is a summary of what I just shared with you, okay? And I'm also going to tell you that this is a summary in comparing these for a 65 and older example, okay? So this is what your value would be. This is what your taxable value would be, and here's what your taxes would be if you were 65 and older. This is what your taxes would be if you didn't have a homestead and you were not 65 and older. So basically, what you would do, you'd be saving $112 a year in county taxes. Remember that the county only offers a 65 and older exemption. You would be saving $641 in city tax. And ironically enough, you'd be saving $641. Ricardo and I were reviewing these slides, and I thought I had made a math mistake because the savings for the city and the savings for the school were exactly the same. It just worked out that way. So let me give you the next slide. So here's a summary of a summary, taking out all those different elements and just saying if you had a house that's worth $250,000 and you didn't apply for any kind of exemptions, you'd be paying $5,500 a year of property tax. But if you applied for the exemption, especially the 65 and older, or for the homestead, I'm sorry, I did break it out on this one. No exemptions, $5,500. With a homestead, it comes down $467 and you're saving nearly almost $870 a year. But if you apply for a homestead and a 65 and older, your savings goes up to almost $1,400 a year in savings. That's a little over $100 a month you're saving in property tax by being 65 and older. And then the real benefit for this over 65 is it creates a tax saving to where it won't go up any more than that. Now, I have to throw out this caveat. Right now, how many of you know if you're in the Tarrant Regional Water District jurisdiction? How many of you know if you are in the hospital district? I think everybody in Tarrant is in the hospital district, okay? The hospital district and the water district are not allowed to give any type of tax ceiling. Now, right now, Representative Charlie Guerin of Westside Fort Worth, he has introduced a bill that would require all taxing entities to honor a tax ceiling so that whenever you turn 65, then you would have tax ceilings on everything. One particular man lives over on the west side. He calls me almost every year because his hospital tax goes up or his water district tax goes up. And we talk every year. We talked yesterday. We talked Monday in person or on the telephone, and we talked by email today. And he is in really big support of Charlie Guerin's bill. And I actually helped him write a letter to the Ways and Means Chairman, Representative Morgan Myers, asking him, please usher this bill through his committee, pass it out of committee so it can become law. It would be very helpful to those that are 65 and older and disabled in order to have a tax ceiling on all their taxing entities, not just those for the county, city, and school, basically. The junior college has a tax ceiling, but the hospital and the water district do not. But as you can see from here, a homestead exemption can provide you some savings. How many of you know? I don't want to. It's not a point of embarrassment or anything like that. How many of you have a homestead exemption on your property? Okay, I did not see everybody's hand go up. So if you do not have a homestead exemption on your property, you might want to look into apply for them. I have the forms over here. If you pick up a homestead application forms, there's 3 pages to it, okay? Some of you may have come in and just picked up the top page and you didn't get the other pages. Yes, ma'am.
I want to make sure I have this, a good understanding about this. I have the homestead exemption, but I also can get the 65 and older, right?
I'm just assuming you might be 65 and older. If you qualify, being that you are age 65 and older, yes, it's a separate application that you need to apply for. Now, there is something on the form that says if you provide us your birth date when you applied for the homestead exemption, and you put your birth date down, we will come back and we will look to see if you qualify. But if you didn't give us your birth date when you originally applied, we won't know when you turn 65. So we won't automatically give you the over 65. But I will tell you this, the good thing about this and the way the legislature has helped folks is if you don't have a homestead exemption right now, or you don't have a 65 and older exemption right now, you could come to my office tomorrow. You don't have, there's no rush, but you could come to my office tomorrow, you could apply for the exemption, and you could ask us to check for the past 2 years. Now, how many of you have lived in your house for like 3 years? This is like the 3rd year. Okay, so if you didn't apply for the over 65 or 65 and older, I'm trying to change my brain. I'm used to calling it the over 65. Well, you don't have to be, you can get it when you're 65. You want to wait till you're 66. That makes sense? You don't have to get it. So it's 65 and older. If you haven't applied for it, you can come back and you can apply 2 years in arrears. And if you're
No,
qualified,
there's a refund?
I'm sorry,
There's a refund check?
I'm not going to, I know the lady who will.
Oh, cool.
Actually, state law requires the tax assessor collector, Whitney Burgess, to automatically send a refund check. I like to tell people, we're not a credit card company and it's hard to get money out of us. If you apply for something you're entitled to, as long as your address is correct and how we can get it to you, they'll send you a refund check. Yes, sir.
I have a question, let me see if I can get this correctly altogether. I bought my house in July, it had homestead, but I'm applying for mine in 2023. Now, I own the house with somebody, but that somebody lives in Austin primarily, they have homestead on that property in Austin. If I apply for homestead, given that their name is on the mortgage, is that gonna be a problem?
It may or it may not, okay? I'm gonna say this, you bought the house in July of 2022, okay?
So if I paid my taxes in 2022 with the homestead from the previous owner,
Okay, correct.
applying for mine in 2023.
How many of you bought a home in 2020, well, it's just been a few days in 2023. Has anybody bought a home by the last month? You have?
Oh, next month, no.
I mean, this month? January or February?
No.
Okay. How many of you are planning on buying a home in the very near future? Sometime this year, okay? There's a new law, I'm getting back to your question, okay? It kind of pertains to your question. There's a new law in place that says that when you buy your home, like, let's say you buy a home in May, okay? There's a new law that says you can come in and you can apply for your exemption now, even though you didn't own the home on January the 1st. If the home you're buying did not have a homestead exemption prior to, okay? So let's say you're gonna come buy my home. My home has a homestead exemption on it, because I applied for it, right? So if you buy my home in May, then you'll get the benefit of my homestead for 2023, and then you can apply for your homestead in 2024, okay? But if you're buying a home from me that say it was a rent house and it didn't have a homestead exemption on it, you can buy the home and then you can come apply for it for yourself for 2023. Now, back to your question. You bought the home in July 2022, you got the benefit of the previous owner. Now, the question I would ask you if you came in my office was, the other person that owns the home also, were you married to them? Okay. In that particular case, what we would do is we would take your home and we would divide your home in half. The person that owns it with you would have half the home, you would have half the home, and we would give you a homestead exemption on your half.
Exactly half.
Exactly half. I mean, because they own a 50% undivided interest in the home. So we'd set up two accounts, one with your homestead, one with their account, and because they have a homestead in another county. Okay?
But if I get it under my name completely,
It would be, yeah, if you get it under your name completely, it'll be 100% yours, you get a homestead for the whole thing. Okay. Yeah. And January the 1st is sort of the key date of when you begin qualifications. You owned it, you lived there as your principal resident on January 1st. Then they have this new law that says if you buy the home, say in May or June or July or whatever, and it did not have a previous homestead, then you can apply early.
so as of now, they still are part owner.
Okay?
There is no way to avoid having to only get 50%, right?
As long as their name is on the deed and you're not married to them. The way it's different is if you're married. When you're married to someone, it doesn't matter whether this person or this person comes in and applies. We treat you as one, and they can apply and get the homestead on the whole thing, or you can apply and get the homestead on the whole thing. But if you're unmarried, and we see this sometimes with brothers and sisters, that they own a home, that maybe they have an inheritance, that they both own the home together. That would be the case. Sister may live over there with a spouse, and we would give you half a homestead. That type of thing. But you can remedy it by transferring the property from this other person all into your name. Then you can probably come in and apply for it. Well, I'd get with my exemptions supervisor, because I say sometimes some things and they come and say, no, that's not exactly right. I get the person, but yeah, you would need to get it all in your name, or you can come in and get half homestead. Someone back there, yes, ma'am.
Is there somewhere you can go to verify, your homestead?
Yes and no. Okay, you can go to our website. You can go to tad.org, and you can call up your account. If it's just a regular homestead, if you'll scroll to the very bottom of tad.org, and and if you'll ask me that question once I get through on my slides, I'll go show you on TAD.org exactly that, okay? If you scroll all the way to the bottom on TAD.org, and it'll tell you whether or not you have it's called a Section 1113 homestead. Now, there's another law that says I cannot put anything on my website that would indicate what your age is. So I can't tell you on my website if you have a 65 and older homestead, because that's giving away the fact that you're age 65 or older, right? And we'll do the same thing for disabled. We don't put the disabled folks on our website to indicate that this person is disabled. But we do put, if you have a homestead on it, you can verify whether or not you have a homestead. Yes, ma'am.
If someone's 60, and how do they get a homestead?
60?
Yes.
They just come and apply for a general homestead.
And what is the qualifications for general?
You have to own the home, and you have to live in the home with your principal place of residence. That's it. Yes, ma'am.
In the case such as this, let's say, he was approved for half of the homestead, and then let's say in August of 2023, he got it in his neighborhood. How does that work? Does they have to wait till 2024?
That was the part I said I want to go talk to my exemption supervisor. He may have to wait until January 1st of 2024 to have the home. If you had it transferred into your name today, you could get half a homestead on your house for 2023, but you may have to wait until 2024 to get the full homestead once you own 100% of the property. But I want to verify that.
Does that apply only for the city or does the school?
No, it applies for the county, the city, the school. There's not different rules for the different taxing units. There's one rule that applies to all.
In that case, will we get a credit?
Well, you already have, well, when you say get a credit, what do you mean?
Say that he has to wait for January 1, but he did it in August. Would he
Yeah.
get credit for August to
For
January?
the last.
That's what I would need to double check. That's what I need to double check. Especially since it's not your spouse, okay? Especially since it's not your spouse.
What you do about if you inherit the property? Same thing you can do about taxes.
Man, I was hoping nobody would ask me this question. If you inherit a property, it can be a problem.
Very much.
And the reason, it can be a problem and a blessing all at the same time. But there's a new law that we haven't experienced very much, but it's out there. Let me just kind of share it with you. Let's say your mom or your dad owned a piece of property. And let's just say your dad owned the property. And your dad passes away and your mom has already passed. And so now you inherit the property, but dad had the over 65 and the homestead. We would keep the homestead on the property for the rest of the year, but come January the 1st of December 31st, we would remove both the homestead and the over 65, the 65 and older exemption, but dad's gone. And then you now own the property, let's say, you inherited it. The problem would be is if you live somewhere else and you weren't going to move into dad's house, then the exemptions would be taken off of dad's house and the taxes would go up. In this example, the taxes might go up substantially. Now there is a new law called an heirship exemption, an heirship property. This is a brand new one, but this has to do, as I kind of understand it, let's say that dad lived in the house and you lived in the house with him to take care of it. And maybe you have some sisters or brothers that might be heirs to as well. Dad passes away, and there's a new law that says if you're going to stay in the house after dad passes, that you might be able to claim it as an heirship property and be able to get a homestead exemption.
So you have to say it.
You would have to stay in it, yeah. And the way I think it was kind of tailored was there's a lot of people that were caregivers for parents or something like that, and then the parent passes, and this caregiver is going to stay in the house. And eventually probably inherit it once they go through the probate and everything like that. And what was happening was that when the dad passed away, the appraisal districts were following the law, and they would come say, I'm sorry, but we can't continue the exemption. The over 65 person no longer is there. They would take the exemptions away. The taxes would go way up. And so then the person that was the heir had this problem. So the legislature made a fix to the law to allow these heirs to continue an exemption so that they possibly wouldn't lose the property. But there will be a change in the amount of taxes that are due. You can't keep dad's over 65 exemption in Sealy. Now, who can? There are some people that can, and that is the spouse. Let's say, for example, Dad was 75 when he passed, but Dad married a younger lady. And as long as the spouse was age 55 years of age or older, they get to keep the ceiling and the taxes that were in place when Dad passed away. And it works for Mom too. Doesn't matter. Maybe Mom was 75 and she married a 60-year-old man. And then she passes away. Because the surviving spouse is age 55 or older, they get to keep the taxes that the older person had. And it doesn't matter in a case if you happen to be 65 and your spouse is 64 or 63, whoever turns 65 needs to come in and apply for the exemption. Because again, when you're married, we treat you sort of as one. When you're brother and sister, we treat you as two different people. That has to do with common law and rights of survivorship and things of that nature.
So what if both of them are deceased? The mom and the dad.
Yeah, the exemption will come off, and whoever it has the inheritance, they'll wind up having to pay taxes on the $250,000 number.
That's what's happening now.
The exemptions will be removed because they no longer qualify, and then we have to reset the taxes.
So what can be done to lower that?
You can come in and protest the value. That's an option that all property owners have. You can say, I just don't think my house is worth $250,000. What I would not come in and do if you protest is come in and say my taxes are too high. Because that's not, you're not really protesting. You gotta keep in mind, not three things, you gotta keep in mind this. You gotta keep in mind who the players are in this thing. The appraisal district is the one that sets your values and administers the exemptions. Your local elected officials, the cities, the county, and the schools, they're the ones who set these tax rates. Let's go back, right here.
So you're protesting the appraisal, not
Yes.
the tax?
Yes, I said this, and you can come in and protest this. 200,000 people did it last year.
Okay.
This tax rate, let me go back one more. This tax rate down here, I didn't set that. The appraisal district has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
Your local elected officials have something to do with this. This is where the school board, the city council, or the county commissioners court, they determine what this number is going to be. So there's two things you can do. One is you can definitely come in and protest your value.
Do any good?
Well, it depends. It depends on what evidence you have. If I've got a bunch of sales in your neighborhood that says, man, everything in this neighborhood sells for $250,000 or more, that there might not be a whole lot you can do to argue this number down. Now, if you have foundation problems, you got roof problems, you got physical problems that we're not aware of, you can bring us information about that. Bring us photographs, bring us estimates, foundation estimates.
And that'll lower the rate.
It might, yeah, it won't lower the rate. Remember,
The appraisal
that's
value.
right. It might lower the value. Now, if you want to argue about your taxes are too high, you could go to your elected officials and say, look, well, $2,500 is too much.
Texas, that sounds like where the house is. Those houses not worth that.
Tell you what, we were in Lake Como. Oh, I better tell you, I got hurry. I gotta get to the next slide. Lake Como's changing.
Yeah.
Lake Como is changing, and what's happening is there's a lot of developers that are coming in and buying the property in Lake Como.
Yes.
No, I cannot. Now, there is something else that you can do. You go to this next slide, and I'll come back to you. I'll answer your question. I'll stay here and answer your question. If, for some reason, you get yourself in a situation, or mom and dad get themselves in a situation where they really can't afford to pay the taxes anymore, if you're 65 years of age or older, you can file, or disabled, you can file for something called a tax deferral. Now, what does a deferral mean?
Push it down the road.
It kicks the can down the road, doesn't it? Somebody is gonna ultimately pay the taxes, but deferring it means I don't have to pay it now. The way deferrals work basically are, I'm gonna file a deferral, I'm gonna live in the house the rest of my life, I'm gonna die, and my kids are gonna have to deal with it.
Oh, wow. That's not cute.
Well, it may not be, but it is definitely one way that you keep people off your back and have to pay the taxes. Now, some of the situations that I've seen are the kids have their own house, and mom and dad pass away, and the kids are not necessarily interested in. Yeah, they're gonna sell it. When they sell it, then they'll pay the taxes on it and get caught up. But it's an option. You just need to remember that. That's out there as an option. There's one thing I want you, okay, I'm gonna get these 2 questions, and I'm gonna talk about scams. I don't want you to fall victim to scams.
Back to the value of the appraisal and showing the documentation. Is there somewhere online that you go, or there's a time period that you can, protest that appraisal value?
Yes, there is. How many of you recall getting the little blue letter in the mail around April 15th? We will put, what we call an appraisal notice in the mail on April 15th of this year. That blue letter will have all the information you need to know about filing a protest. On the back of that blue form is the protest form.
Oh, good.
You can fill it out and send it in if you want to protest.
And you're mailing that to everybody in April?
I'm mailing it to everybody in April whose value goes up by $1,000.
Is that the blue letter that says this is what I'm doing?
Yes.
Okay.
But what about if it doesn't go up, but you just still want to protest?
You absolutely have the right to do that. The law just requires me to send that blue letter to everyone whose value goes up by $1,000. If I don't raise your value by $1,000, I'm not required by law to send it to you, but you have the right to protest it every year.
You have to wait till April, you can't do it before then?
You can.
You go in tomorrow and do it.
Come tomorrow, file protest.
Okay, cool. You just need a picture.
Okay, this is just for clarification. If, I own the property, I inherit the property, and I choose to, like, put one of my children on the property with me, the homestead, you said that I would only be able to get 50%.
Yeah, you'd fall back in the same situation he has since you and your daughter are not married, then you own half, she owns half. And whoever lives there would be the one that would be eligible to get the homestead on that part. Yeah. Other way to do it would be to transfer the whole thing to them, and then they can get the homestead. Now, I want to talk real briefly about scams. There are some companies out there that will send you a letter. If y'all picked up this designation of homestead request form, that is a form that somebody out there is wanting you to use their services. Basically, what they want to do is they want to charge you about $45, and they'll send you one of those other forms over there that say homestead exemption. And then you'll fill that out. And when you fill out this, you're giving them the right to go in there and change your mailing address from your home to their address, so that when the exemption gets applied, the refund will be sent to them. They'll take their $45 you paid on plus about half of your refund, and then they'll send you the rest, and then they're supposed to go back and change your mailing address back to yours. Now, the reason they do all that was that Ms. Burgess, our tax assessor collector, she has a rule that she will only send refunds to people who pay the taxes.
Uh-oh.
So when you pay the taxes, she's going to send it to your mailing address. They don't like that. They want you to change the mailing address to them. So she will send it to one of her mailing addresses on her file. They get the refund, they take half of it, they send you the other half, and then they change your mailing address back. You do not need a service like this to file for a homestead exemption. That's why us in the city of Fort Worth are coming out. This is what, the 6th one? This is the 6th community involvement seminar that we've done to tell people, number one, this is free. The homestead application is free. We will help you with it. We will even advise you of what's your best way to save the most money. So don't go out and hire a company to help you file for a homestead exemption. You can do it for free with the appraisal district here in Jackson County. I'll skip over that. I gotta hurry on the time. For those of you that are interested in the tax rate part of it, there is a website out there called tarranttaxinfo.com. This is a website that was set up by the appraisal district. State law required us to set this up. And the whole point of this is to give you information on the tax rates that your taxing entities have set. When you go to this screen here, you'll put in your account number right here, and you'll hit the search button, and then you'll get to your account. And this is some of the information you'll see. It tells you what the city of Fort Worth did, Fort Worth ISD, Tarrant County, the county college, the hospital district, and the regional water district. Okay. For example, let's look at the city of Fort Worth. This is last year's tax rate. 73.21, 73 cents for every $100 of value. Okay. Something called the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate. The no new revenue rate, I know y'all can't see that back there very well, that's 0.666876. It's lower, right? That's the tax rate. The whole purpose of this is trying to inform you all of what the local governments are doing and thinking. That's the tax rate that by law, that if they set this tax rate, they're saying that we would generate no additional revenue from property taxes. So that would take them from 73 cents to 66 cents. That would be a reduction in the tax rate. They're required by law to tell you that. This voter approval rate is a math calculation that the legislature lets them do. That's 79 cents. So the city can come back and adopt the 73 cents, last year's tax rate, or they can adopt this 0.666 number, which is a no new revenue, which are saying we're not going to try to get any additional revenue. We're going to operate this next year on the same money we got last year. Or they can take it up to 79, almost 80 cents, raise taxes. Or they can put out there what the proposed rate is. In this case here, that's the 71.25. That was the number that I used in the previous example. So this whole website is here to help you understand that if the city adopted 73 cents last year, it could adopt 66 cents and not raise any revenue for them, or it'll show that actually they're proposing a 71 cent tax rate. I'm gonna tell you right now, a little secret, any number above that number right there is a tax increase. Okay, because that's anything that they do above this no new revenue rate will be a tax increase. If I raise the value, you would think that they might lower the tax rate. And they do some. The city of Fort Worth actually been fairly good at lowering it. They just haven't necessarily lowered it the same percentage that I've gone up. Okay, this is a really good website for you to go to. It also allows you to provide feedback on that website to your local officials as well about the tax rates. Each taxing unit sets its own tax rate. I don't have anything to do with tax rates. That's the city, the counties, and the schools' responsibility, okay? You have a right to go talk to your elected officials about the tax rate. You have a right to protest your value, okay? Now, I may have good data and good information that would suggest that my value is right. You may have good information and good value to show that my value is wrong. And if I want to know those things, if we have a bad value, we need to get it corrected. If there's something about your house I don't know, we need to get it corrected. But we may have some good data too that shows that none of your house is worth more than you think it's worth. Somebody have a question?
So you said like you think houses in the area, so if they just have a wrong comp, like your house and that, they have other comparable homes that were bought.
Absolutely. Texas is what we call a non-disclosure state. Nobody is required by law to tell the appraisal district what they paid for their house. So there may be sales that exist that we don't know anything about.
They're not required to tell the appraisal district.
Yeah.
But the appraisal district is using comps in the neighborhood that makes sales
Yeah.
to raise taxes. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, we do get sales information, but you as a property owner are not required to disclose that sales information to me.
But you're gonna get it anyway.
I may get some of it, I may not get all of it. So that's what she says. If she knows of other comps in the neighborhood
That are lower.
that are lower that I didn't have any access to or knowledge about, can you use that? Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't have all the data because we're not California.
Wow.
California is a full disclosure state. Every home that sells has to be disclosed to the government officials how much you pay for it. All right, I want to just thank you guys for your attendance. I went a little long. I will stay to answer some questions if you have them, but I would highly recommend that if you do not know if you have a homestead exemption, go look for it. Go on our website and look. If you have a homestead, if it shows homestead, you would need to call our office and find out if you have a 65 or older. Now, I will tell you on the blue notice that we send out, you might want to just wait until then, but April's coming, right? On the blue notice, we will tell you what exemptions you have on the property. We will disclose on that, because that's a private communication to you. We will tell you have the homestead, the over 65, all that information.
Blue notice is
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I want to thank the city of Fort Worth. This is our last one. I want to thank Shauna and all of her staff for, actually, they kind of set this up. This community here was the one who kind of launched it all. And we've done 6 of these. It's been a lot of fun. I want to thank Shauna. She's done a great job. All the other staff, I don't know all y'all's names, but y'all need to spend all our